You just snapped at someone you love over something so small you can't even remember it 10 minutes later. You did that. You, specifically, with your one brain and your one mouth and your one set of car keys you almost threw across the kitchen. But here's the part nobody tells you. There wasn't actually one of you in that room. There were several, and they were fighting, and the one that won the argument is not the one you would have picked if you'd gotten a vote. Picture your skull. Less like a control room with one calm person at the dashboard. Picture it more like a cramped studio apartment with 4 roommates who never signed a lease, never agreed on rent, and have been locked in there together since before you could talk. None of them like each other, none of them ever leave, and they take turns answering the door depending on who gets there first. One of those roommates has been awake since before humans existed. Scientists call it the amygdala. In plain terms, it's a tiny almond-shaped alarm system buried deep in your brain, whose entire job is to scream danger first and ask questions never. Researcher Joseph Ledoux spent decades mapping exactly how fast this thing fires, and the number is almost insulting. Your amygdala can trigger a full threat response in a few dozen milliseconds, which is faster than you can finish blinking. That means your body can already be flooding with stress chemicals before the rational, talking part of you has even figured out what it's looking at. It's the smoke detector that goes off because you made toast, except the toast is your co-worker saying, "Can we talk?" in a Slack message. Or what does that actually mean? It means the part of you that feels like it's in charge usually shows up after the decision has already been made. A second roommate has been running on autopilot for so long it's basically furniture at this point. This is your habit system tucked into a region called the basal ganglia. And it does not care about your goals, your New Year's resolutions, or your feelings. Researcher Wendy Wood, who has spent her career studying exactly this, found that somewhere around 40% of what you do in an average day isn't a decision at all. It's a groove your brain has worn into itself, like a hiking trail that's been walked so many times the grass simply gives up. 40%. That means almost half of your day is being lived by a roommate who's been doing the same load of laundry the same way for 10 years and will fight you to the death. If you suggest there's a faster setting on the machine, here's where it gets uncomfortable. A third roommate runs the show using something researcher Antonio Damasio called somatic markers. Plain version, your gut feelings aren't separate from your thinking. They basically are your thinking, just dressed up in a sensation instead of a sentence. That tightness in your chest before you say yes to a bad plan, that's not a vibe. That's an ancient scorekeeping system tallying up every similar moment you've survived before and casting an emotional vote before your logic even gets a seat at the table. So you've got the smoke detector that fires before you can blink, the autopilot that's already driving the car, and the gut that's been quietly voting this whole time, and that's before the fourth roommate even wakes up. The fourth roommate is the one you actually think of as you. This is the prefrontal cortex, the part capable of slow, deliberate, weigh the options thinking. Researcher Daniel Kahneman built an entire career mapping the difference between this slow thinker and the fast, instinctive systems running underneath it. And his blunt conclusion was this: the slow thinker is lazy, easily tired, and usually shows up to a decision that's already been made by someone faster. And here's the twist that should genuinely bother you. That fourth roommate doesn't just show up late, it lies about it. Neuroscientist Michael Gazzaniga, working with patients whose brain hemispheres had been surgically separated, discovered something he called the interpreter, a part of the brain whose entire job is to construct a tidy, confident story explaining why you did something, even when it has zero access to the real reason. In his experiments, patients would act on an impulse fed to one half of their brain, and the other half, with no idea why the action happened, would instantly invent a completely reasonable-sounding explanation. Confidently, on the spot. Every time. What does that mean for you? It means the version of you narrating your own life is less like a reporter and more like a press secretary who wasn't in the room for the decision, but still has to walk out and give a statement. So go back to that moment in the kitchen. The smoke detector heard a tone of voice it didn't like and fired off a threat signal in under 1/10 of a second. The autopilot, which has snapped at people in exactly this situation 100 times before, took the wheel because that's the groove it knows. The gut had already cast its vote before a single full sentence formed, and by the time your inner press secretary showed up, all it could do was build a story. I'm just stressed. They always do this. I had every right to explain a decision 3 other roommates had already made without asking. You didn't lose your temper. 4 systems held a closed-door meeting at the speed of nerve signals. The slowest one arrived last, and it's been taking credit for the outcome ever since. And this is happening constantly in small rooms you don't even notice, the flinch before you check a notification, the food you reach for without deciding to, the way you already know how an argument with a specific person will go before it starts, because some ancient scorekeeper ran the numbers and voted before you opened your mouth. None of this makes you broken, it makes you outnumbered. You are not one calm narrator steering a single vehicle. You are 4 roommates sharing one mouth, one set of hands, and one very confused sense of I. So next time you snap at someone you love over something you can't even remember 10 minutes later, remember this. You didn't do that. 4 versions of you did, and only one of them is going to apologize for it.